In the bustling village of Nui, where the air smells of fresh earth and palm trees, Ngozi and Obinna had been married for 7 years. They had hoped for a child, but the years passed and the silence in their home grew louder. The walls that once held laughter now echoed with quiet despair. They tried everything: herbs from the village healer, prayers from the church, visits to distant towns, but nothing seemed to work. The pressure from both their families and society was unbearable. Everyone expected a child. But Ngozi could never understand why, no matter what she tried, she could not conceive. "Obinna," Ngozi whispered late one night, lying in their darkened bedroom. "Do you think we will ever have a child?" Obinna, ever calm, stroked her hair gently. "Ngozi, I have faith in us. We will have our child when the time is right." But as the days went on, Ngozi's hope began to fade. She began to entertain the idea of adoption, unsure whether it would bring peace to her heart but desperate to fill the emptiness she felt inside. One sunny afternoon, Ngozi's sister, Aunt Amora, arrived with news that would change their lives forever. She brought Uchechi, her young niece, to live with them. Uchechi's parents had passed away in an accident, leaving her an orphan. "I don't have much, Ngozi," Aunt Amora said, tears welling in her eyes. "But Uchechi is full of life. She needs a home. Take her as your own." Ngozi hesitated for only a moment, then looked at the child's bright, eager eyes. Uchechi was 6 years old, with a smile that could light up a room. It felt like fate. "Welcome home, Uchechi," Ngozi said, kneeling to hug the girl. "You're going to be part of this family now. You will never feel alone again." Uchechi, though sad about the loss of her parents, beamed at the kindness. "I promise I will be a good girl," Uchechi said. Over the next few months, Ngozi and Obinna poured all their love into Uchechi, giving her the care and attention they had longed to give their own child. Uchechi thrived, excelling in school and winning the hearts of the villagers with her lively spirit. The family seemed whole again. 2 years later, just when Ngozi had begun to believe she had found peace in her heart, she received surprising news: she was pregnant. "Obinna," she cried, clutching his hands in disbelief. "I'm pregnant. I can feel the baby inside me." Obinna stared at her, wide-eyed. "Are you sure? After all these years?" "I can feel it, Obinna. I know it's real." The news spread like wildfire through the village. The long-awaited pregnancy filled Ngozi with joy, but also an undercurrent of fear. Would Uchechi still be loved as much now that they were having their own child? When Shinonso was born, the joy was overwhelming. The family celebrated, the air filled with music, and Uchechi was ecstatic to have a little brother. But soon, things began to shift. At first, everything seemed fine. Uchechi adored Shinonso, helping her mother care for him. But as time passed, Ngozi's attention was consumed by the new baby, leaving Uchechi to feel more and more isolated. "Uchechi, you're a big girl now. Take care of the laundry while I tend to your brother," Ngozi would say, barely glancing at her. Uchechi, eager to please, nodded obediently. But she could feel the distance growing between her and her adoptive mother. The once warm affection had turned into distant commands. No longer was she the cherished daughter, but merely an extra pair of hands. "Mother, may I have a moment with you?" Uchechi asked one evening, her voice small. Ngozi, cradling Shinonso in her arms, barely looked up. "Not now, Uchechi. I'm busy with your brother." Uchechi's heart sank, but she said nothing. Weeks passed, and Uchechi's role in the household became more like that of a servant. She cleaned, cooked, and helped with Shinonso's care, while Ngozi and Obinna showered their biological son with affection and attention. One evening, as the family sat together for dinner, Uchechi noticed how their conversations had changed. They no longer spoke about her achievements at school or her dreams for the future. Instead, the conversation always circled back to Chinonso. Obina, Chinonso is already starting to walk. He's such a fast learner, Ngozi said with pride. That's my son. Obina replied, smiling broadly. I knew he would be strong. Uchechi, sitting quietly at the table, felt the tears rise in her eyes. She had once been the center of their world, and now she was invisible. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Uchechi stood in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection. Am I not enough anymore? She whispered to herself. Have I lost my place in this family? Weeks turned into months, and things only grew worse. Uchechi continued to be pushed aside, while Chinonso thrived. But then, something unexpected happened. Chinonso began to fall ill. At first, it was just a cough. But soon, his condition worsened. He couldn't keep food down, and his skin grew pale. Ngozi and Obina rushed to the local clinic, but no diagnosis seemed to help. Why is this happening? Ngozi wept, clutching her son tightly. He's so young, Obina. He can't die. But despite every effort, Chinonso's condition deteriorated further. The doctors were baffled, and the family's desperation grew. One evening, as Ngozi sat by Chinonso's bedside, exhausted and desperate, Uchechi approached her cautiously. Mother, maybe you should rest. You've been awake for days, Uchechi suggested gently, though her voice trembled with emotion. Ngozi looked at Uchechi, her face drawn and tired. What do you know, Uchechi? You don't understand. I've waited my whole life for this child. I know, mother. I know, Uchechi replied softly, her heart aching for the woman she still loved, despite everything. But you've forgotten me. I've always been here. The words hit Ngozi like a slap, and for the first time in years, she saw her daughter for who she truly was, a girl who had been treated like an outsider in the very home she had once called her own. Tears welled in Ngozi's eyes, and she took Uchechi's hands in hers. I'm sorry, my child. I've been so focused on Chinonso that I forgot you. I took you for granted, Ngozi whispered, her voice breaking. But just as Uchechi was about to speak, a loud cough came from the bed. Ngozi rushed to Chinonso's side, but it was too late. Chinonso let out a final, shuddering breath and passed away in her arms. The funeral was quiet, and the village mourned with the family. But for Ngozi, the pain of losing her son was eclipsed only by the guilt of her actions towards Uchechi. Sitting alone by Chinonso's grave, Ngozi whispered, I failed you, my son. And I failed her too. Uchechi stood behind her, her expression unreadable. She had forgiven her adoptive mother long ago, but the scars of neglect were still there. With a heavy heart, Uchechi turned to leave the home she had once hoped would be hers forever. Goodbye, mother, Uchechi said softly, not turning back. Ngozi called out to her, but Uchechi was already gone, walking into the horizon, the shadow of her mother's love and rejection forever etched in her heart.